that have this tradition of being called something like fireside chat without a fire, but with a table, and it's not round table. So I just invite you to think about how we apply certain, labels to things without intellectually thinking, what does it mean? So we are talking about DeFi now. We don't want to defy DeFi. And we talk about institutions and DeFi. That is a very important step and milestone towards adoption. I would love to invite our wonderfully gender but balanced constitution of the panel. So Kimberly, could you please step on the stage and introduce your wonderful co-panelists? Good luck with the panel.
Good morning, everyone. Yep. I see we have some institutions and VCs on the right-hand side. This is the panel for you. So if you want to make your way over here, we have some great panelists. We have Elizabeth Matthew, who is from Consensus. We have Lisa Loud, who is from FLUIDEFI. Her picture is not there yet, but it soon will be. And Mark Smargon from Fuse. I guess And I'm Kimberly from Bridge Network. So welcome, guys. Before we get started, we'll just do some quick introductions. Liz, we can start from you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Liz Matthew. I run growth and partnerships for MetaMask Institutional.
Hi, I'm Lisa Loud. I'm the CEO and co-founder of FLUIDEFI. We have institutional tools to trade in DeFi.
Hi, I'm Mark Smargon from Fuse. We're building a public blockchain for payments, basically trying to bridge between Visa and the crypto world.
Awesome. So let's kick it off. We already know that institutions are adopting DeFi. We've seen the numbers. But with that being said, there's a lot of memes about it. You know, there's one meme with SBF where it's SBF, please don't liquidate me. And so we know that there's a lot of institutions bring a lot of liquidity. But what happens when there's a lot of liquidity in the market, and because institutions are connected with the global markets and that downticks, retail investors gets wrecked. So how can institutions safely enter the space without affecting retail users?
This is a great question. At FLUIDEFI, we have an API that you can use to implement your trading strategy. So what we see is that institutions will implement several strategies. Some of them are main strategies and some of them are hedging strategies. When the market goes down, they don't pull their liquidity out completely. They change over to a different strategy. Now that might still wreck a small project, a token project, if all of that liquidity is pulled. But let's examine the question. Are we saying that retail users are not smart enough to pull their liquidity out of a bad project? So the project can be artificially propped up by being supported by not very smart people. I don't think that's what we want. We want efficient markets where good performance is rewarded with good investment. So I don't see institutions pulling all of their capital out of DeFi at once. What I see is that they will strategically place it with good projects or with slightly less risky opportunities.
That makes sense. And Liz, I know you guys are building a lot of tools for institutions right now. Can you explain the main difference between MetaMask for a retail user and MetaMask for an institutional user?
Yeah, absolutely. So the genesis of MetaMask Institutional is when organizations that were using the retail browser extension reached out to us 2 years ago to say that this was just not fit for professional access. And so what we set up ourselves to do was to solve for staying true to the principle of providing unrivaled access to DeFi and Web3, but yet adding some of the operational controls and governance policies that organizations require. We did that by integrating with a wide range of custodians to enforce governance policies and rules and responsibilities within the team that collectively manage the wallet. And today we have 12 custodians on our platform, facilitating that globally. Thirdly, we needed to make sure that we provided compliant access to Web3, and we did that with an in-house tool that is able to analyze and screen for the health of a pool pre-trade, but also on a post-trade basis.
Wow, that's impressive. And Mark, how are you guys facilitating the institutional adoption over at Fuse?
So I think institutional adoption is kind of a long tail, because you can argue that 20-30% of Ethereum is controlled by institutions right now. And a lot of them just starting to learn about risk management and hedging and how to do it in the crypto way, and lending and opportunities and yield, and how to evaluate the risks of platforms. And probably there's like, very little appetite for for incumbent institutions, and there's new types of institutions, the long tail of institutions, smaller companies that need to manage treasuries in bulk, they need to hedge, they need to pay salaries. It's starting to be more and more closer to crypto than to finance, I believe.
And you're on the builder side, right? So you focus a lot on that. Obviously, a lot of the space is institutions invest into DeFi protocols, and ultimately that determines, which protocols grow and which protocols don't. What would be your advice to, because I know we have a lot of VCs here, what would be your advice to institutions and VCs coming into DeFi, and who should they be supporting in this space?
I think every cycle we see like a lot of mistakes being made and lessons learned. And I think last few months with Celsius and Terra and a lot of Three Arrows and a lot of institutions that were really big, managing billions of dollars of people's money, and they didn't hedge, they didn't do risk management. So it's a cautionary tale for other institutions. And every cycle you learn about what doesn't work, and you improve it next time for the next cycle. Because everything, under the hood is open. Everybody can pick inside, and best practices are implemented kind of like industry-wide. That's really unique in crypto, the fact that it's all like open under the hood.
Exactly. And well, a lot of the traditional capital markets, it's propped up. It's all institutional, for the most part, money. And this institutional money is flowing. That's a highly regulated space. DeFi is a highly unregulated space. Lisa, can you share some light on the regulation side of things?
Yeah, regulation. I think there are two barriers to adoption for institutions. One is the lack of good tools, and we're both building tools, or all of us are building tools to help that side of things. Then it's the regulatory unclarity right now. I'm seeing a lot of effort put into compliant pools where the entire pool has KYC on it. At the moment, what we do on our platform is we compare every pool with the OFAC list of suspicious wallets, and we can flag any pool that has any activity relating to those wallets. So it's a Band-Aid, I think, but it is what we can do right now. And then the other thing I want to say is that there's a lot of inconsistency across jurisdictions. So there's always gray areas where institutions can operate. I mean, even in Canada, where we're based, the institutions don't have clarity, but if they have a broker-dealer license, they feel comfortable enough to actually participate in DeFi, even though they don't know all the counterparties they're working with. And you raised a lot of good points about mistakes that have been made and repercussions that come after the fact. It's not always safe to go in a gray area, because sometimes the consequences are retroactive. But at the same time, the returns to be made are very high right now. And we have a bit of a template where We can say, okay, we're sending a letter for, in our case, to the OSC, the securities regulator, and saying, this is what we're doing. Let us know if there's anything wrong with this, which means that you're making best efforts to follow the rules while still participating. And I think regulators are at the point now, in the US and Canada at least, where they recognize the effort as being worth something. So you're not going to get fined or put in jail or anything. So it's very gray. Summary, it's very gray, but there's still opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, and I think consensus, I mean, you guys have a good grasp on the market. You work with the institutions, you have access to the retail clients. I'm sure, you guys work directly with persons like Goldman Sachs, etc. How is consensus bridging that gap in terms of educating the regulators on the best practices here?
Yeah, I think a considerable amount of education is required. We certainly have a team that work closely with the regulators globally in trying to educate them the power of this new technology. One thing I have found in my discussions with sort of Big Five is that they lack a certain level of practitioner knowledge. And so one thing that we are currently focusing on with the largest of institutions is to say that it is very difficult to regulate or even understand without actually taking a deep dive. The operational learning curve is quite steep with this technology and this asset class. So what we have been facilitating is that, sure, there's been a retail wallet around for some time. We know people globally are using it. As an organization or someone that represents an institution, we advise them to open up a wallet and try out all the different custodial options on the platform, try out all the different dApps they're thinking about, and actually get a practitioner's sense of what the technology can do. They obviously have the domain knowledge and experience, and we want to be able to benefit from that. But at the same time, it's difficult to be building regulations, in a silo without actually understanding what it is that you're trying to regulate.
I agree. And so what would you say, let's say you were a regulator, what would your outlook be on the current DeFi landscape as it is, and how would you regulate this as a regulator? I know it's a loaded question.
Yeah, no, I think it's very difficult to apply this technology and Web3 tokens against a framework that was defined in the 1930s. I think it would make the lives of regulators and in the ecosystem much easier if they began with a first principles basis of understanding, firstly, understanding what the technology can do, what are the risks, how do you protect consumers, and then with those guiding principles, take a first principles approach of how to be putting rules in place to protect everyone's interests.
I just want to add that I think that right now, like when we say Ethereum or we say Bitcoin or we say like those words, we mean a lot of different things. This is the problem with regulators as well. Like when you say Bitcoin or Ethereum, you mean the technology, the currency, and the network. Those are three different things with totally different characteristics. And I don't think in general that regulators should regulate technology. Technology is just, a buzzword. People are excited about it and then they're not. They need to regulate asset classes. Technology right now is being used by 30 million people. And I'm saying used, not invested, like actual users, actual usage, and people that are familiar with this. Out of that 30 million, I would say a big portion of it is investors and developers, where it's not retail or any way close to mainstream adoption, or the technology is any way comfortable. The only way to onboard billions of people is to really hide the technology, just like Google did and Amazon did and Microsoft did, and pretty much every big company, succeeded on this idea that you're improving the UX and reducing and basically making the technology transparent. Nobody knows which technology Google used 30 years ago. So that's my 2 cents about regulation.
I spent my first crypto job was at BitMEX, and so because of all the drama that surrounded that, I had the opportunity to be quite up close and personal with quite a few regulators in the US. So I got to know, I kind of got an inside perspective through many hours of questions, interviews, and conversations to how they approach it. And you know, they're people. They're not bad. They're looking for the answers. Sometimes they get it wrong, but I would say that I can see a genuine effort to understand this space from the US side, from the regulator side. Sometimes we think of them as the big bad guy, but that's kind of gone away from me. And I'm just trying to help them get to the point where some of us in the industry are. Not very many people are in the world are even familiar enough with crypto to understand it. So how can they be? So I appreciate the effort they have, and I think we've got a good future.
So, okay, so we're talking about the regulation of the technology itself, but then, so what's your thoughts on the SEC considering Ethereum a security because most of its nodes are based in the US?
I think the regulators misunderstand their job. Specifically, you know, companies like Amazon or Rakuten, they have like loyalty systems. They basically manage, you know, they give a discount to people in the form of coupons. It's a very widespread thing. Crypto is a culmination of loyalty and commodities and securities. It's basically kind of like a blend of them together. And it's kind of absurd to judge, you know, this new type of asset by a test from like from the 30s, from the Depression times about an orchard. So that's my point, that that this war between the SEC and the CFTC is making them look bad.
It's like we're trying to stuff new innovation into just old laws, which does not make sense. I guess we're a little tight for time here, but to kind of wrap up, what would you say is the next steps for institutions in DeFi? You know, we're in a bear market. Obviously, institutions are moving very cautiously. Where do you see us? Where do you see institutions going in DeFi? Are they exiting? Are they entering? Are they moving with caution? What?
Yeah, I would disagree with the caution, because what I see is that crypto's down. Well, the markets are down. Institutions see that as an opportunity. They're like, oh, blood on the streets, time to get in. So our inflow of inbound inquiries has increased since the crash.
Crypto looks like a safe haven nowadays, if you look at the stock market. So.
True. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for your time. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick selfie. 1 second. My team insists. No, the format. We're doing a selfie like